Hey, what's up guys, it's Renaldo here. So this video is going to focus on the Minister of Agriculture, John Steenhuisen, having tiffs and arguments with the people that he's supposed to represent, the farmers and their unions and organizations that are representing them. I've never ever seen anything like this where a minister is at such loggerheads with the people that he is supposed to represent, especially considering that this is the biggest livestock disaster on record in South Africa when it comes to the foot and mouth disease outbreak that has taken place in this country. Now, this has got nothing to do with political parties. I'm not going to belittle, insult, and attack political parties. I'm merely going to focus on the minister, John Steenhuisen, and the farmer unions and organizations, including the farmers that they represent. So before we jump into this video, please be sure to subscribe. It's absolutely free. It won't cost you anything. And the overwhelming majority of you that regularly watch my show, which is 85% and more, aren't subscribed to this channel, but you can fix that by just clicking the subscribe button below. It'll be greatly appreciated. All right, so let's just jump straight into it. So Theo de Jager, who is the chairperson of SAI and represents close to 4,000 farmers, have stated the following. Imagine this scenario. While South Africa loses a dairy a day and the FNM virus wreaks havoc in all 9 provinces, another 1.5 million doses delivered over the weekend got stuck in administrative bungling. No sense of urgency, no sympathy, no consequences for the senior government officials that's in control. Now, obviously, what he's referring to here is John has come out and said that they've got all these millions of vaccines and that it's being rolled out. But according to Theo de Jager from SAI, nothing of the sorts is actually happening. He goes on to say, the foot and mouth vaccines, which were imported over the weekend by private sector under the auspices and permits of government, have been grabbed by government. They can't pay, though hence it's still in storage while the disease is spreading like wildfire. We desperately need an alternative, private way between the manufacturers and the cattle, and we need stronger leadership in the Department of Agriculture. And yeah, I mean, the only thing that I can say to this is clearly we are hearing two sides of a story. We've got the farmers and the unions on the one side that says that there is no rollout yet. They say that they've got the vaccines, the government, but the farmers aren't actually seeing the vaccinations on the farm. And then, of course, there's an additional one here that says 4 days after the arrival of 1.5 million doses of the foot and mouth vaccine, there is still no sign of it on farms or feedlots. State administration is blocking it. This is why in Brazil and elsewhere in the world, the state only monitored and reported on the vaccination campaign. Private sector did the rest. As farmers, we wished for a day when policymakers and government officials can be held accountable for the unspeakable pain of lost livelihoods, jobs, generational heritage, farming enterprise, and livestock. I believe the amount that the sector has lost now is close to 15 billion rand because of the government's slow rollout or the failure to actually deal with this foot and mouth disease outbreak that's been going on since 2019, but has obviously escalated. Now, you can clearly see Theo is really angry and upset because he believes that the government isn't being honest, being transparent, or rolling it out and helping the farmers. So you can clearly hear the frustration by somebody that represents farmers. And then in response to this, John Steenhuisen said the following. I see the mischief maker in chief, which is Theo de Jager, is up to his usual disinformation tactics on the price of the foot and mouth disease vaccines. He takes the unit price but then conveniently excludes the freight, delivery, taxes, clearing and distribution charges that any importer would have to pay. Government is sourcing vaccines at the best available price and is paying for and distributing them in line with our strategy. Fake news does not assist in combating a disease outbreak. Don't get your news from fraudsters. So, calling farmer union or organization representative fraudsters is not going to win you any support from the farmers. And calling one of these individuals that represent close to 4,000 farmers mischief maker in chief. I mean, there's a way of doing things and then there's a way of doing things. And every day it just looks like John Steenhuisen is turning more and more into Fikile and Balula with the insults, with, providing a counter narrative that's actually got nothing to do with the topic at hand. But anyway, in response to this, well, not in response to this, but something that Theo de Jager through Francois Rousseau brought up was, remember, John Steenhuisen just said that they'll get the best available prices. Well, here's the Department of Agriculture responding to questions that were posed. And then there's one in particular. It says here, what is the estimated cost per farmer of your proposed vaccination plan? Response, the cost of vaccination per cow per annum currently will be 300 Rand per annum. So this is their best price that they are talking about. But then Theo de Jager came back and provided the receipts and said, well, we can get it at 45 Rand excluding VAT. And it's over here. If you have a look, it says right here, the pricing and logistics. It says it can deliver it at 45 Rand excluding VAT per dose. And then the price includes cold storage and cold chain delivery to anywhere in the country. So if you work that out, then let's argue that it's 60 Rand per dose. The government said 300 Rand, and when you deal with foot and mouth, they need 2 vaccinations 3 to 6 weeks apart. So that's 130 Rand. And then every 6 months, they need an additional dose, which is then, of course, 65 Rand, which then tells you that you are roughly at about 190 Rand to deal with the foot and mouth disease, and then, 6 months later. And the government is quoting it at 300 Rand. So the government is profiting off of this outbreak to the tune of 100 Rand per cow. And I mean, there are millions that has to be given the vaccine. So that is quite concerning, especially considering that the proof is in the pudding, especially after John said that he is lying about the prices. But then, as you can clearly see over here, Theo de Jager provides it and says, dit is wat die enstof werklik kos, R45 plus BTW, logistieke kostes ingesluit. So it seems that there's already a blatant lie being spread by the Department of Agriculture saying that they are getting the best price possible. But then if you work it out, there is a discrepancy of more than 100 Rand per cow, and millions of them need to get vaccinated. So this does seem that the government is actually profiteering off of a disaster in South Africa, because don't forget, this is the biggest livestock disaster on record in South Africa. And yes, this is something that Minister Steenhuisen inherited it from the previous dispensation, but it doesn't change the fact that for the last 2 years, what has he been doing as the Minister of Agriculture? He hasn't actually dealt with this, and this is why it's a disaster now, 2 years after he became the minister. But if you think that that is the worst that I have to show in this video, listen to this absolute bullshit by the minister himself.
You talk about the free-for-all as far as vaccines are concerned, but Minister, you've also warned that vaccines could be used as a bioweapon. Explain that to me.
Well, what you could do is use the vaccines for nefarious purposes, and that's why they are a controlled substance, Jeremy.
What nefarious purposes?
You could use them to damage a herd of a competitive, a fellow country that competes with you on the beef market. You could infect your competitor if you're a feedlotter.
Okay, can I just stop it there? These vaccines, I actually did my own research. They don't actually have a live virus in it. So there is no way possible that you can provide somebody else with the foot and mouth disease with the vaccine itself. And in actual fact, what you could just do if you wanted to compromise your neighboring farm or somebody else is go to your cow, do this with them, go to the neighboring farm and do that to the cows, and then they will get the foot and mouth disease. So this absolute idiotic thinking Just doesn't make sense because firstly, you can't get the virus from the vaccine. And secondly, there's a lot easier way to do it. There are millions of cows in this country that's got foot and mouth disease. You just need to touch their mouths or their feet, go to the neighboring farm and do that, and then they can get it too. So it doesn't make any sense.
And you're competing against another feedlot. You could infect a competitor's herd using a vaccine. And
John, that matric is showing now. I am one that don't hold the lack of degrees against people, because I've met a lot of people with degrees that are bigger idiots than those that don't even have a standard 6, right? But in this instance, it just clearly once again demonstrates that when it comes to government and when it comes to ministers and deputy ministers, there needs to be a minimum standard. If you want to become the Minister of Finance, you have to have some background in finance or some degrees. If you want to be the Minister of Agriculture, you have to know the first thing about farming. And the fact that John Steenhuisen has continuously been arrogant and angry and combative with farmers and their with their trade unions and with the organizations, it's just absolutely absurd to think that he thinks that he knows more than what the farmers know. And then on top of that, remember, it's his department that failed since 2019 to deal with this outbreak. So it's 7 years this year. And instead of listening to the farmers and the unions and the organizations and the representatives, he is continuing to listen to the administrators in that department that has allowed this outbreak to go on for 7 years. And then not only does he do it in a humble way, he goes and attacks, belittles and insults the farmers, their unions, their representatives. And then the video that you just saw in which he says, this vaccine can be used as a bioweapon. This clearly illustrates why it is important that if you want to become a minister or a deputy minister, that you have experience in the sector that you are going to represent. Otherwise, you're going to look like an absolute fool, like John Steenhuisen is looking right here, right now. From the slow rollout and lying to the farmers and the unions and their representatives, to the price where it's clearly illustrated that it's 45 Rand excluding VAT. And it includes shipping it here, having it in cold storage. And it looks to me, and I think to everybody that's got eyes and can add up, that the government is profiteering off of this disaster to the tune of at least 100 Rand per animal. And with millions that has to be vaccinated more than once, you can add up and you can see that some cadre that provided the tender is benefiting very much out of this deal. And then lastly, spreading of misinformation by John Steenhuisen. So just in the last few weeks, 3 things that the minister has completely failed on. And I can only ask you, at what point will people look at John Steenhuisen and go, he is not suitable to be the Minister of Agriculture? Considering that he's been in that position now for 2 years, and the foot and mouth disease outbreak hasn't improved. It has gotten a lot worse, to the point now where he's promised all of these millions of vaccines, but farmers on the ground are saying, where are they? We don't know where they are. And then just the clear arrogance from him, speaking as if he knows more than what the farmers know. If you just boil it all down, if you are a minister of agriculture, you would think that you want to get farmers on your side and that you would do everything in your power to get the farmers to support you. But every single thing that John Steenhuisen has done to date is to antagonize the farmers, to treat them like they are dumb, like they are idiots, and trying to tell them things that as if they don't know more than John Steenhuisen. Because, like I said, in this case, John Steenhuisen truly does have a matric. And these farmers have got decades, if not centuries, through their heritage of experience with farming. And John, that 2 years ago didn't know the first thing about farming and is now the minister of it, think that he knows more than the actual farmers. And that is pretty much where we are right now. I would love to hear your comments. Let me know whether you think John is right, or whether, the tens of thousands of farmers in this country is right. But that's pretty much all I got to say, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Smash that like button, share this video far and wide. Don't forget to subscribe. It's free. However, if you'd like to support me financially, you can give a super thanks right now, or you can become a member to this channel by clicking the join button below. It'll cost you R39.99, and that is in support of me and this channel, and it'll be greatly appreciated. And that's all I got to say. Till later. Cheers and peace out.
You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre.